G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated Podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Okay, today's episode is one that I didn't really plan on doing. I didn't want to do it, but I have to do it because this is the most honest, open, vulnerable, fair income podcast on all the internet. So when I make a slip up, I need to be telling you about that as well because this is real life. This is what happens. There's no sugarcoating this. This is my living experience. So what I'm referring to in a very roundabout way is the fact that unfortunately my alcohol ban has been lifted. So I've had a couple of drinks over the last couple of weeks and I need to tell you all about it because I sort of forgot that, I'd done all these episodes on not drinking and what it's like and, what I was feeling and stuff. But I hadn't done one for a while and partly that was because I started drinking again. And I thought, no one will actually know that isn't continuing. I need to be upfront about it. That's what I'm doing right now. It's hard because, so maybe I'll start with when I broke this streak, which was a month ago. So I've been going to a lot of Oasis tribute shows, because I love Oasis, got that fixation. There's that episode, Oasis Mania, that I did, highly recommend it if you want to listen to it. But Oasis is definitely one of my autistic fixations, ADHD, hyperfocus, whatever you want to call it. I love them. And I love watching tribute shows because at the moment that's the best I can do. But the thing is, no one else that I know really wants to come with me, which is okay. It's fine. I enjoy doing things on my own. I've become a really good sort of buddy to the self, and me and myself go out quite a bit and just, it's literally me on my own, but it's good. I enjoy my own company. A lot of people don't. And I never used to, but that is actually something that I've developed over the last probably 12 to 24 months, is this friendship, I suppose, with the self and the fact that, I can have fun with myself and be accepting of that. And that's huge. I think that's a big part of improving self-esteem. I think that it ties into that quite nicely because at the same time, although I don't want to divert too much, I've become a lot better at putting boundaries in, which essentially to me is a self-respect sort of thing. So now that I respect myself and believe that I am a good person and I deserve good things, those boundaries have been a lot more solid, stopping things that maybe are to my detriment, and going out and hanging out, like, driving around with myself, just having a good time, I think is an extension of that and that improvement in self-esteem, which, don't get me wrong, there's plenty more improvement to go, and it ties into why I've been drinking again as well. But there is definitely improvement. So that's the positive from this episode. Now that's probably just about it. So why did I start again? So I went 11 months without it. What an achievement. Longest I've ever gone without it. And then I went to an Oasis tribute show and it was just me, like I said. But, I was there and I really wanted to get up to the front and just start going for it, just belting out Wonderwall, Champagne Supernova, Don't Look Back in Anger, what a band. Morning Glory, my personal favourite. But I was sitting there on the side and it's just in a pub. It was like 40 of us, I don't know. But I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I really should be up there just going for it. My autism's saying, come on, let's start stimming and just going for it. And that's what I wanted to do. But I just couldn't get myself up there, and I was really annoyed about that. And I was thinking to myself, look, because remember, I think about death a lot. So I remember thinking in that moment, look, mate, we could die at any moment. We don't want to have these regrets that we missed out on good times because, we were playing it safe and not drinking because, goody two-shoes, boring. That's not how I want to live life. So there was an inner critic component, I suppose, saying, if you don't go up there, have a few drinks and have a good time, well, this is a waste of time and you only live once. So, you don't get a second chance. That's the sort of significance of the thoughts that were going through my head. And that's the thing. At no point has this been like, there's been no, I guess, a lot of people drink for fun, but I don't. And there hasn't been really that moment or moments where I'm like, man, I just want to crack a beer and just have a good time, just have fun. Like that hedonistic sort of short term, just boom, in the moment, happiness, let's get the dopamine going, because alcohol works on that and a few other things. That's not how I approach this. The way I approach it is I have social anxiety disorder. I have autism. I feel awkward constantly because of my inner critic that just won't be quiet. maybe if I have a few drinks, that'll dial that down a bit and I can actually enjoy the night. And that's exactly how I've approached it pretty much forever. It's not just to get messed up and just go crazy. It's to alleviate the symptoms of these disorders. So when I was younger, I didn't realize these disorders were doing their thing, but it was the same thing. I'd go to parties and I want to be talking to chicks, and I couldn't do it. So I used to drink a lot as, 18-year-old even, to get over that sort of fear and be able to talk. So what I'm saying is that the way I look at alcohol and use it is more it's like a tool. It's like the Vyvanse for my ADHD, I use that as a tool. And alcohol is much the same. That's the same sort of mentality that I'm coming from. I'm in a social setting. I'm feeling awkward. Therefore, everyone knows that I'm awkward. Look at him. He's a weirdo. That's the inner critic, of course. There's not much evidence that supports that, but man, it tells me in a big way. So, to not be embarrassed and stuff, we need a couple of drinks to loosen up, and then we'll be normal like everyone else. And that inner critic will dial down and I can push it aside and just have a good night. That's the plan. The problem is it's never really done that for me. It doesn't matter how many drinks I have, I'm telling you, my social anxiety and just my generalized anxiety, it's just there constantly. It doesn't go away. And I'm talking drinking enough, the blackout and all that. Maybe if it does work, it's I've got to have so much alcohol that I don't remember it anyway. And there's no point in that. That's just a complete waste of time. So, if this was a medication and I'd have such huge doses for it to do anything, and then obviously the side effects that come with it, you'd be saying, this medication ain't for me. It ain't doing the job. That's just the reality of things. And that's pretty much what alcohol's like. I try to use it like a medication. I try to use it, to dial down that inner critic, dial down that inner negative monologue, dial down that social awkward anxiety that I've got pumping around so I can enjoy the night, talk to people normally and have a good time. It's all about lowering those barriers. But unfortunately, even having 20 beers is not enough. It doesn't do it. There's so many times, not that I do this too often, when I'm talking to a chick when I've been out, when I was younger and stuff, and I'd be talking and I'd be stressing, I'd be sweating bullets, and the whole time that inner monologue's just running me down. So I'm half listening to the lovely lady in front, but there's all this negativity constantly just going. And I used to compensate for that by drinking more and more. But like I just said, it doesn't work. Sometimes I can sort of push through it, but I don't think that's alcohol that's doing that. I think that's more from within, a bit of mental fortitude and being in a certain mood where I'm able to push past those barriers. I don't think it's alcohol that has lowered those walls. But the thing is, it feels like it should. So there's this psychological component to me drinking again because I still feel like, look, everyone that does this that I talk to seems to think it works for the anxiety and talking to people and loosens you up a bit and, a bit of liquid courage. And although the evidence for me is that that's not the case for me, it's still, that's what it's known for. That's what it's for. And that's exactly what I need to happen. It's supposedly, theoretically, for other people maybe, it targets exactly what I've been talking about and diminishes it in a way that people can, enjoy the night. That seems to be, although I know that's a generalization, of course, and there will be many people that will resonate with what I'm talking about here today and how it isn't working. But in my mind, I'm like, come on, it should be working. Everyone else it works for. So, we'll keep doing it and it'll click eventually. It'll be fine. But that's really not what's been happening. But that's what's been driving a lot of this more recent alcohol consumption. And again, as a lot of my parts are at play. So the 16-year-old that really wants to hook up with all these chicks because supposedly that will help his failing self-esteem, which is very sad, I might add. My 16-year-old is still very, very influential. And a lot of these decisions recently concerning, I guess, substance use, I don't want to say abuse, but it probably could, but substance use at least, a lot of it's coming once again from my 16-year-old self trying to be cool so no one rips us off anymore and boost that self-esteem. It's very frustrating because I've said in therapy to this part before that this isn't the way to do things. But so there's a problem though. There's a really big problem, and this is why I can't push against it. So when I quit alcohol, I made a deal with God, all right? Yeah, I'm sort of religious, or at least I believe in a higher sort of being. There's something bigger than us going on that's not calling all the shots maybe, but he's very influential. Anyway, whoever that person is or entity is, I said to him, all right, right, I don't have everything in life that I want at the moment. There's no partner, there's no family, mortgage, really great job, expensive stuff. But if I stop drinking, the deal was that some of those things might eventuate. So you get sober and then all of a sudden you don't spend money on dumb stuff, or you don't do dumb things. And then, everything's positive scaffolds from there. And all of a sudden, I've been off the drink for 12 months and all these great things are happening. You hear these stories all the time. The thing is, for me, none of those things happened. I'm sitting here now, let's say I was sitting here doing this episode a month ago, and what can I say? None of those things have happened. I'm in the same position that I was before. So there's this real strong thought from probably another part, but the 16-year-old part's probably helping this part along with saying this, which is, what's the point? That we're not getting anything extra out of it anyway. This is how it's got to be. So let's just have a good bloody time. Let's just get on it, have a good time. And who knows? Sometimes it works for people, lowering those barriers down. So maybe it'll click for me one day. Then how good's that? It's hard to justify the sacrifice when I don't feel I got the rewards for my efforts. And, that's a huge topic that deserves its own. Sacrifice is a huge part of our culture, and we do it all the time. When we go to work, we're sacrificing our free time, but it's to get the reward, which is money, which will then enrich your life and then make things better. You know what I mean? So my thought was, if I stopped the alcohol, it would be the same sort of thing. All of a sudden, these good things would happen, and it would be because of my sacrifice. I made these sacrifices, for good, though, because good things have been produced. Now, maybe I didn't do it long enough, I don't know, but 11 months, and I don't feel like any of that sort of happened. And I didn't feel that much better either. I'm still tired I'm still anxious all the time. There were some mornings, Sunday mornings, I wake up and I'm feeling hungover anyway with a headache. I'm like, what's going on? I haven't drank anything. Why do I still feel like this anyway? So the benefits that a lot of people talk about, just they didn't feel like they were there. Maybe, internally my body was feeling a lot better. My liver was great. Maybe there's things that I didn't perceive that were improving because I wasn't drinking, but I didn't perceive it. That's the thing. So I didn't perceive really any major bonuses to the sacrifice of not drinking, because it feels like the sacrifice is I'm sacrificing having a good time, and like I said, I still have a good time, but everyone has those big nights, I suppose, and it's like so memorable, so awesome. And then, a lot of people like me have those big nights where they were terrible as well. But, I that inner critic that was saying get back on it was sort of, I was alluding to the fact that, we can't get a certain level of happiness without drinking. It's got a lid on it. It's got a lid on it. I'm sacrificing good times, and and the conclusion was, what am I sacrificing it for? Because those good times aren't coming, and those good things haven't eventuated either. So it was very hard to push back, and I know these things don't happen overnight, and 11 months probably is nowhere near enough, but I needed something. I needed a little win here or there. I needed, something that made the sacrifice seem like it was doing something, because then all the dopamine hits and we're loving it, but it just didn't really happen. So very, very, very disappointing. And I've got to get over that thought. I guess you got to have faith that doing the right things will produce the right outcomes. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't feel like that the right outcomes eventuated, and that sucked. And, I like having a beer, which I do. So why sacrifice that when you only live once for, good times that aren't even coming? The good times are you on the drink, Elliot. Come on. That was the sort of that dialogue that I've been trying to push back against, and haven't done a very good job of it the last month or so. But anyway, so that's the story. Back on the drink. I hope that makes sense. I think I've rambled a little bit, but, I think I'm rambling in part because that is exactly my thought processes at the moment. There's a lot of different parts within me and different things in my environment, my external environment, that are really sort of creating this jumbled up narrative and story moving forward. I don't really know where we're going moving forward. There's a lot of parts that have their own opinions, you could say, and are trying to push me in one direction or another. But it's all very chaotic in my headspace at the moment, especially when I think about alcohol consumption, because there are parts as well that are like, it's a great idea. Think of the money you save. It's good for your health. It's good for you because there's been some incidences in the past where the alcohol has amplified the negative and has caused some problems, which I'll be going through in episodes soon. I'm going to dive into the past a little bit more. I haven't done that as much as I wanted to, but I'm going to do it soon. And alcohol, as you'll find out, has been a huge part of my story so far. And unfortunately, it seems to be a part of it again. But the last thing I want to say is, which is making it even more difficult to go off it again, is that each occasion has been enjoyable. It's been fun. I've actually liked it. And there haven't been those big bad moments. So that reinforces this idea that, hey, this is fine. We can do this. It's okay. But I just have this feeling that something big could happen and probably will happen. And then I'll give it up for good. I just feel like this was a good warm-up and prove to myself that I can do it. But what's coming, and I hope this doesn't happen, but what's coming is some big event that's going to absolutely rock my world, and then that'll be it. I'll never get on it again. I'll retire from the drinking and partying scene, and I'll live a nice, happy life, sitting at home, watching TV, listening to the radio, hopefully with somebody. That'd be nice, at least a pet, at least my cat, but being sober, and I don't know. I think there's good, I'm sort of saying that scenario in a joking manner, but there's a lot of stuff in that scenario that I would love, so I don't know. I just feel like there's this big thing coming, hopefully not, but then I'll give up. I think definitely for sure I'm going to have to give up for good eventually. I'm going to have to. And I think the time is coming. I just hope it isn't triggered by a big sort of meltdown, because that's pretty much what happened last time. Went out drinking, made a fool of myself in front of my sister and her work friends, absolute idiot. And then walking out of that bar, I slipped over, split the back of my head open, needed stitches and stuff. And that was when I decided 11 months ago, all right, we don't need this anymore. This is garbage. Let's grow up. We're 34 now or 33 at the time, but, let's do this. But as I said, the main thing is, though, if I was having those little wins, I'm very confident that I'd still be off it. Like if I got off it and then all of a sudden I have a partner, like there is no way my OCD would absolutely create that causal relationship between alcohol and girlfriend. I'd obsess over and be like, yeah, this is it. And it'd be good. The obsessions would be about not drinking alcohol and how great that is. But those little wins just never bloody happened. And it sucks because I'm back on it and I'm scared that something big is coming. Anyway, all right, that's it. I've been rambling a bit, but as I said, there's a lot of thought going on about this subject. There's a lot to talk about. So hopefully that makes sense and that explains my sort of headspace at the moment when it comes to these sorts of things. As always, I'll keep you posted with how things are going because there's no secrets here. I am very much an open book, no question. All right, thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time here on the Dysregulated Podcast.